Oh, we're live. Okay, good. That was faster than normal. I feel like. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Betwixt the Books, because it's just me and Gretchen. It's
No,
our...
Taylor dead. Wait.
No, Taylor dead weight. Today we wanted to discuss sort of the hubbub that's been going on all over the internet about Noma Dumezweni being cast as Hermione in the new play that I think was written by J.K. Rowling, or at least is endorsed by her. She's been working with them, called Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, which is actually like a two-part play. I was looking into it. It's kind of weird. So when you go to see it, you either have to go to a matinee and an evening performance, or two different evening performances, because it's split in half over 2 nights, which is kind of weird, but interesting at the same time. And that sparked a whole bunch of people being very upset about a award-winning Shakespearean actor being cast as Hermione, just because she is from Africa. She's not white.
I mean, did people just want Emma Watson to come back?
I
the ones
mean,
that make up from the end of the 7th movie on all of them?
I think that would be kind of a fair argument because Emma Watson is beautiful, but
That's fair.
no, a lot of people have been saying that casting a woman of color in the role of Hermione is wrong. It's against canon, and they shouldn't do it. Let alone the fact that the actor they cast who's playing Ron isn't ginger. I find
that's like actually against canon.
it's definitely against canon. Or the fact that Daniel Radcliffe has blue eyes and not green eyes in all of those movies, and like I can't tell you how many times J.K. Rowling said that Harry had green eyes in those books. There's a lot.
Although, to be fair, they tried to give him those eyes with colored contacts, and his eyes rejected them. They were like, "Ah, never mind."
Nope. No green eyes for you. So I figured that we could do a discussion about what is canon here, because one of the main arguments is that it's not canon. You can't do it.
Well, and I think the definitive answer to that question came from J.K. Rowling herself, and she was like, skin color was never specified. It was just, the buck teeth and the frizzy hair, and really, really smart.
Yeah.
And I think anyone who thinks that therefore because skin color wasn't specified, that white is canon, is showcasing a great deal of white privilege in that moment.
Yeah.
I have to say, in encapsulation,
Mm-hmm.
because that's like general in books. Like when any book character is explained, if they are not like mentioned to be some kind of ethnicity, then they are by default white, which is.
I linked in the description below a couple of articles, and the opening to the Huffington Post article that I linked was there's an unspoken rule in literature, sorry, I'm sick, that characters are white unless explicitly described otherwise, which I think is true. I talked in my blog post yesterday about how I asked my class how they read gender when gender isn't specified, and generally people read either their own gender or the gender of the author as the speaker, if they don't know the gender. But I feel like when it comes to race or ethnicity, it's white if it's not specified. No matter what race or ethnicity you are, most people will default to white, which I think is not just like a problem, because it's clearly a problem, but I think it has to do with the fact that we don't read books about characters of color unless it's supposed to be about like the Black experience, as we discussed in my Toni Morrison class, that you read stories about the Black experience that a character that is normal is white, right?
And there's like the typical trope of I have been rereading The Wrath in the Dawn, which is this YA book ad nauseum, while I've been home, and that book is specifically set in, it's a retelling of 1,000 Nights. So it's like specifically set there, and then people are like, okay, you don't have to specify because we assume because it's set here.
Yeah.
But anything set in like a fantasy setting or stuff like that, people are, these are all white unless you tell me otherwise, which is really weird.
Yeah. Do you think it's because of the fact that the literary canon is so white that like the books that we read growing up are all very whitewashed in a way?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, because even in books, though, when things are specified, like I always go back to this example of Julie Kagawa's first, her vampire series, which I'm forgetting now. No, I read all 3 of them. But the first cover of the book was when, like, it was the big trend of, like, half a girl's face.
Yeah.
And the main character, Alison Sakamoto, I remember her name, another name of the book. I don't know why. She is Asian. Or Asian American, I think. And
the girl on the cover wasn't.
The girl on the cover she's white.
Oh, no.
White. But they originally, so I think the first book is the only book that looks like that. After that, they went to the symbols thing. But that's also very interesting that, you know, the books with the white, I'm speaking specifically YA right now because that's where I do a lot of my research. And this is part of my thesis, actually, that I'm writing, is that a lot of the YA books, when they have what can be assumed to be a white protagonist, especially like with the females, when girls in dresses or like half face is really popular, they would be on the cover. But when you get any book that specified a different ethnicity, you get the symbols cover. They wouldn't even go for the person. They'd get the symbol. They wouldn't do the whole cover trend thing. And you're just sitting there like,
you don't want to show somebody who's not white on your covers, guys? Why? That's weird.
I wish I could say it's weird, but unfortunately, I mean, you know, the weird is
the norm. Yeah. That was one of the other things that was discussed a lot, or at least I had heard brought up, was this idea of beauty, and that the ideal Western beauty is a white woman. And Hermione as a character being sort of the opposite of that, in that she has always been an ugly character. She's constantly told that she has like bad teeth and her hair is gross, and how the only time in the books where she like is pretty is that Yule Ball scene in the 4th one, and how it would be easy to sort of correlate not being pretty because her teeth and her hair are bad to not being the ideal standard of beauty, not being whiteness. Which was an interesting discussion that I heard. And a lot of people were saying that it was also like a good message for young Black girls or mixed race girls, because it was she didn't feel bad about not being attractive. Other people told her that she was unattractive, but she just needed to be smart and brave and kind, and those were the things that she valued. So like, even if everyone else is telling you that you aren't the ideal standard of beauty, that doesn't need to be important to you, which I thought was like a really good argument for like why reading Hermione as a person of color is not just an interesting reading, but an important one.
And I mean, for one, the actress they did cast is still gorgeous.
Oh my god, she's beautiful.
She's beautiful. And that was one of the things that I thought of when the thing about the actress, was because I was always really upset they cast Emma Watson, because I identified with Hermione based on just like feeling really ugly as a kid and like having frizzy hair and rough teeth, and like, but being like the brainy ones, so it was kind of okay. And I just remember they couldn't plan for it. They cast Emma Watson at 11, but Emma Watson was made to be in the movies very pretty after the first.
Yeah, her hair went from being like
movies, and
her hair went from being frizzy to not at all frizzy, just perfect curls. Like,
yeah. So my thing always was, why did you cast Emma Watson where I thought this girl was more like me, and now she's way prettier than I am, and I don't identify with that anymore, just on the sheer fact of that. So that's still my thing. Stop casting pretty people as Spidey. Stop.
It's the film industry. They can't cast ugly people, especially not ugly women. Like,
I know.
they were able, they purposely did like prosthetics and stuff to make Neville an ugly character. Like, he also grew up to be attractive, but you wouldn't know it from any of those films. They like purposely kept making him unattractive, but as soon as she isn't a teeny tiny little baby girl, she becomes gorgeous, right?
Yeah,
That's
gender
another
double standard.
Yeah, gender double standard. You can't have unattractive women in things. One of the arguments that people have said against reading Hermione as a person of color is that in the books, when there is a person of color, she did explicitly state their ethnicity, things like Cho Chang being said being Asian descent, and there were a couple of African American characters that were said to be African American, or not American, African British, African descent. They're not. It's not set in America. That's not right. But then people come back to that and saying that Rowling has come out to say that Dumbledore is gay, even though that wasn't explicitly stated in the book. So there was room for like ambiguity, right? If that makes sense. Like, it. Do you think that she would have stated the ethnicity if she had meant Hermione to be an African American or a mixed race character?
I mean, I feel like it would have come up from, if not from Rowling herself, from Draco Malfoy, because he was so into calling her a mudblood, and I feel like it would have been a very easy step to say, mudblood to something, because Draco Malfoy is just terrible, and probably racist. Or at least would pick up on that as something to say.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think so. I mean, I haven't read all 7 books, like highlighting every moment. That's just like that for me seems like something that would have come up. But I mean, I think I can't prove otherwise. But that's just like a thought that I have in particular.
A lot of people have pointed out Rita Skeeter's comments to Hermione as like sort of pointing to a racial thing, because she makes a lot of comments about Hermione's looks in the book, which it happens from everyone, but it isn't specifically like her skin color. But it's not Draco's comments to her, because Draco seems more preoccupied with her magical blood, which a lot of people have made. It's obviously an allegory for race, like your parents deciding like how good of a person you are, how good of a wizard you are. Obviously is an allegory for race, but like more specifically, Rita Skeeter makes more comments on the way that she looks when she interviews her and talks about her. And I mean, that's not. I would agree that I feel like it would have been stated if she had like specifically meant to write this character as the token black character. She would have done that. But so I talked about the fact that when I first read the books, I did picture Hermione as African American or mixed race. And I talked about how I thought that this was because my dad started reading the books to me right after I had watched Life Size, which had Tyra Banks in it, and how the way that I had pictured Tyra Banks's hair in that film was how I pictured Hermione's hair, and I think I correlated that as like a 6-year-old. Like, I was really little. That film came out in 2000. Like, I had seen the movie on Disney Channel, and then my dad was reading these books. And the fact that Hermione's name is a name that I had not heard before, because we don't have Hermione's here. I don't know that they had Hermione's in England at the time either, but the name sounded...
They do now.
They do now, and I mean, we have them now here as well, but the name sounded foreign in a way. So like, while Harry and Ron, she's not a Sally, she's not a Susie, right? Like, has this name that's not exotic, but like definitely not Harry and Ronald. Like, Do you see what I'm saying? Like, my little brain was like, oh, she's not white. But then the films came out immediately, and she's cast as this white person, and I was confused by that when I was little. And now I feel like, and even then, I feel like that sort of inhibits people's view of the characters, because they then immediately just picture the actors when they're reading, because the films came out before a bunch of the books. So then people are reading them and they're picturing the actors who were playing these characters instead of like what they would have pictured normally. And unless kids read the books before watching the movies, it's difficult to distance yourself from that, right? It's so easy to just pick those faces for the characters once you've seen them.
And I think it's like the issue, and I can't believe I'm going to bring this up, but it's like the issue with people were like, oh my god, Twilight is this great book because because Bella is such a bland character that you can just place yourself on top of her really easily.
Mm-hmm.
Then the movies come out and people are like, oh my god, Kristen Stewart's such a bad actor. But you go back to the books and you're like, this is literally all she was given. And so it's like one of those things that in the books they're like, this is great because she can be anyone. And then, you try to translate that to a film and, Kristen Stewart gets knocked for that. And I mean, granted, they are also pretty bad movies. But considering what Kristen Stewart had to go off of.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my god. But I mean, it's like one of those things.
The everyman trope. The like paper bag character that you're meant to put yourself inside of. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the greatest tools of literature in general. Is, I mean, that's half the reason why, I read is to put myself in a situation I wouldn't otherwise experience. And so I think that for me, a good book can rise or fall depending on how well I can do that. But that's why I agree about the movies. After you see a movie or something, it's just so pigeonholed into thinking. I mean, I refuse to think about the actors in the movies when I reread the Harry Potter books because I'm so angry about how pretty Emma Watson turned out.
You're like, no.
No. But yeah, I think that's especially once, and it's like a double-edged sword because especially once the movies come out, unless they're objectively stated to have been people of color, they won't cast people of color.
No.
And then even in the books, like Ron's girlfriend was a person of color until she became like a person with lines, and then she all of a sudden turned up and was white. So, I mean,
and I feel like that is wicked racist. Just the fact that they like totally switched an actor. Oh my god. A lot of people have been saying that Hermione is actually one of those paper bag characters, one of those everyman characters, because most of the diehard fans, especially the female ones, associate with Hermione more than Harry or Ron. And it's not that she doesn't have characteristics, because she does, but her characteristics are more closely aligned with the people who would be reading it, the nerdy kid, the outsider kid who loves books and loves learning. Whereas Ron is like kind of a ditz and really bad at school, and Harry is the protagonist, which is often really difficult to align yourself with because they have a plot for them, whereas
and especially in like the chosen one trope, like there's a prophecy, there's a thing. Sometimes you can become a protagonist if the protagonist kind of like literally falls on their face into the plot.
Yeah.
And you can be like, oh, like that Kevin, but I mean, he's the chosen one. There's a prophecy. He's got the scar in his forehead, so it's kind of impossible. Like, oh yeah, that could be me. Like,
no.
If you weren't attacked by a marauding wizard when you were like 2 or like 1 or whatever it is, you're already screwed.
Too late for you.
Too late for you.
Yep. So people have been saying that casting Noma Dumezweni is about being politically correct. Like, they're like trying to be politically correct by adding more color into it. And I don't think that is true. I feel like they're doing a different reading of the text than what the traditional reading would be, or what it has been in the past. But Why do you think people are saying that it's a politically correct thing? Because I think that it has to do with the fact that there's all of these Black Lives Matter things, and people who are racist are like, now they're taking everything from us sort of mentality, yeah?
I mean, it's so hard for me to accept that they did it for politically correct reasons, because if they didn't want to, and this is like a facet of white privilege, if they didn't want to cast this actress, they didn't have to, because they could have said what everyone else is saying, which is that these three characters, they're canon white. Mm-hmm. And we aren't gonna fool with this, you know. And if they wanted to be politically correct, they could have added more people of color into supporting characters. Mm. And people might not have had as much like weird like this whole hubbub that's happened, and which I mean really is racist in a certain way.
It is.
It is. But so that's why for me, like, they were just trying to be politically correct is really hard, because they had to have expected this would happen. Mm-hmm. First off, and secondly, it would have just been so easy for them not to do it.
Right.
That, I mean, could they have been doing it to make a statement? Sure, but even if they are doing it that way, they must know that this actress is going to just blow everyone away, because they wouldn't have chosen her knowing this would happen if she wasn't spectacular.
Right.
So
she's chosen on her merits, perhaps. Actually, oh goodness. So a lot of people have also been talking about the idea of race bending, which is actually a fan fiction or fan art trope, and a lot of people have been showing all of those fan art photos of like Hermione as an African American or a mixed race character, and I am wondering if part of the reason that all of this stigma is around it is because the race bending term has been attributed to this. Like, the writing in this was a race bending, and then similar to like queering, where in fan fiction, like, it's always like gay
you're back.
couples.
Okay, you just totally cut out.
Did I cut out? Oh no, where did I leave off?
I didn't hear any of that.
Oh, okay. So I sorry. I was talking about how the term race bending comes from fan fiction and fan art communities. So they've been sending, or they've been associating this casting with race bending. First off, I have problems with that because it's assuming that her race has to be white, so you're bending the race. But I feel like part of the stigma comes from the fact that that term comes from these communities where there's such a stigma on like queering of characters, because they always have to be gay couples. It can't be like a normal romance fan fiction. Fan fiction's always slash. Fan art is, you know, it's imagination, it's not real, whereas people don't seem to realize that her race was never specifically said. Her skin color was never described, despite everything. And the one time people have been able to find her skin color described, it was Harry saying that Ron was looking very freckly and Hermione was looking very brown. And then everybody just sort of like went, brown? You know, like maybe somebody of African descent, maybe?
I mean, that's what I think it is. It's the white privilege assumption of whiteness that just is where this is all coming from. Because if it isn't, it was not explicitly stated, so we assume that it is white, but it's not canon white. And I mean, I think, like we said, like, the important parts of Hermione are that she is brainy and smart, and, you know, maybe in the book she isn't pretty. In real life, we've really gotten very pretty people, but I'll let that slide for now, I guess. But I mean, you know, she's the smart one. You know, she's the nerd and she's the book smart, and she's really important for that. So
yeah,
it just
the idea that the flesh-colored crayon is a peachy color, which doesn't fit my skin tone I don't know if it fits your skin tone, but like I'm way too pale for that like gross pink.
I always forget like the tan one. I was like, I don't tan. What is this color?
It's definitely not gonna match anybody who's not that one particular shade of Caucasian. Peachy. Weird. But yeah. So I don't know. Do you have anything else you want to talk about? That was all my ideas. I just read over my notes and that's everything I had written down.
You had way more coherent thoughts than I did. I just remember seeing the cast and just thinking, oh my god, this is so cool, and she has this great resume, and then everyone was like, brah, Hermione can't be, a person of color. Just like, because it's not like it's the first time that it's happened in play production of something, because I mean, like, there's all these Broadway plays that have been played over and over and over again. And definitely not enough people of color have been in major roles, but there have been, and people are like, oh well, it's just another da 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 da, and it's not like a huge deal every time. There are people like, I can't do that to character from The Sound of Music.
I mean, that one might have problems because I don't know, Germany and
that was the first one I thought of, but I don't know why, because I was specifically thinking of Wicked, because they've had, I can't remember his name. Whatever.
You're tired. You're like, I don't care anymore.
I'm so tired. And this is not alcohol, by the way. I just happen to be drinking it out of a wine glass. This is soda.
You want to look classy.
I do. My mother gave it to me this way.
Yeah. The one thing that I forgot to say is that a lot of people have also been associating this outrage with the outrage when the actress who played Rue in the first Hunger Games movie was chosen, because a lot of people read Rue as white, even though it was explicitly stated in the Hunger Games that she was African descent, African American in that case. Yeah, I know.
Yes, because we need more white representation. You're absolutely right. Should just. I mean, because I read the Hunger Games once a million years ago. I didn't enjoy them, as we've discussed, but Katniss wasn't supposed to be white, right? Katniss wasn't white. So.
And I mean, we can go into the long history in film of casting white people in films that don't even take place where they should be white, or like,
oh yeah,
like how many Egyptian films have we seen with white people playing like Cleopatra or like whatever?
One just came out of the Veil Starry. Just like, what is this? Yep. That just. I wanted to be any younger, so every time that comes out, I'm just so angry. Why?
Yep. So, I mean, at least this character was open to interpretation. It adds things to the story from what I hear. I haven't reread the books, and I know that little me wasn't thinking about like what it would mean if this character was of African descent versus a white character in the world. And while Rowling might not have specifically written this character as in this way, I feel like we shouldn't say that she can't be, because she obviously can.
Obviously can, and honestly, I wish that she had been. That would have been really cool. But she wasn't. But she wasn't explicitly said to be white either, and I think part of literature moving forward should be this.
Yep. Alrighty. I think we've been talking for half an hour, so I think that we're all right. Am I still here? Are we ready to go?
You are.
Okay. We'll see you guys soon. We have a book club episode coming out probably after the holidays, maybe not until after New Year's. So if you haven't read The Buried Giant yet... Oh, what? Did I leave again?
Bye.
Bye.